They tried to destroy what they couldn't define, but the fire they sent your way forged a force they'll never recover from. Let's get one thing straight from the start. They never hated you because you were broken. They hated you because you had the power to break what they built on lies. They saw what you carried, even before you did. And instead of facing your light, they declared war on it, not with honesty, not with strength, but with envy, manipulation, sabotage, and smear campaigns. Cowards dressed in concern, pretenders parading as friends, family in name, enemies in energy. They didn't want to fight fair. They wanted to destroy you from the inside out. Why? Because taking your power was easier than facing their own powerlessness. And still, here you are. Before we go any further, like this video and subscribe to help push this message into the hands of more chosen ones around the world. Every like signals YouTube that this is a message worth spreading, because it is. When you interact, the algorithm wakes up. And we need this truth to find the ones still trapped in silence, still doubting their fire. Don't just feel it, fuel it. Let's talk about it. The assignment over your life is not for the weak, and you know that. Not just because you've heard it, but because you've lived it. This isn't motivational fluff. This is spiritual warfare. This is survival through sabotage. This is generational resistance wearing your name like a target. You didn't just get handed pain. You inherited patterns no one before you could break. You carry weight that should have crushed you, and yet you walk like it's feathers. You weren't just chosen, you were engineered. The universe didn't guess. It selected, it sculpted, it stripped everything that was weak off of you until only the unbreakable remained. That's why it's been hard. That's why people turned. That's why everything you tried to hold on to broke away, because the level you're rising to cannot be shared with those who were praying for your collapse. And yet you doubted yourself. Don't lie, you did. You've questioned your strength in the dark. You've asked why it's so lonely. You've wondered if you imagined the attacks, if maybe you were the problem. That self-doubt? It was their last weapon. They couldn't beat you with force, so they tried to make you beat yourself with confusion. But deep down, something never died. Even when you fell apart, you kept getting back up. Even when your mind was at war, your spirit kept whispering, "You're not done yet." And that whisper, it wasn't imagination. That was alignment. That was your assignment, reminding you that no matter how heavy it gets, you are not allowed to break the way they did, because you were called to end what broke them. You carry answers they didn't have the courage to search for. You are living proof that curses don't win when a chosen one shows up. The power of being chosen doesn't show up in comfort. It shows up in chaos. It haunts your enemies because they realize too late that you weren't the threat, your activation was. That your presence was their exposure. That your glow wasn't arrogance, it was evidence. And now that you've survived what was designed to end you, the only thing left to do is rise unapologetically into the power they never wanted you to believe you had. So no more doubting, no more dimming, no more pretending you don't know who you are. The assignment over your life is not for the weak, and you've done the impossible. Don't ever forget it, and don't ever let them forget it either. Drop a comment below with the number 77 if you're ready to embrace your isolation as the foundation of your transformation. Because that silence you mistook for abandonment, it was preparation. That distance wasn't punishment. It was the universe clearing your path. And now, let's dive into it step by step. And believe me, if you are truly chosen, if the assignment over your life has ever felt heavy, lonely, or like you were walking through fire barefoot, you will feel the pull to stay until the end. Why? Because this isn't just a message, it's confirmation. You didn't imagine your calling. You didn't survive for nothing. And what you've done? Most couldn't even survive thinking about it. Let's get started. Number 1. The weight you carry would have crushed most. They laughed when you broke, but they're choking now that you've rebuilt, because what crushed them only crowned you. Let's be real, they never thought you'd make it this far. They didn't just doubt you, they bet against you. They whispered behind your back, waited for you to fail, celebrated when you crumbled, and smiled when life got heavy. Why? Because deep down, they knew they wouldn't have lasted a day carrying what you carry every single moment. They mocked your struggle because they couldn't survive it. You're not just exhausted. You're carrying decades of dysfunction, centuries of silence, and ancestral chains that were passed down like inheritance. The weight you carry would have crushed most, but not you, and that's exactly what terrifies them. You weren't born into ease. You were born into war zones, emotional, mental, spiritual. Most people inherit wealth or wisdom. You inherited wounds. Trauma was handed to you like tradition. You were taught to accept pain like it was normal. And for a while, you did. Until something inside you started asking, why should I carry what they refuse to heal? That's when everything changed. That's when the assignment activated. And let's be honest, that's when the attacks intensified too. Because when a chosen one starts waking up, the entire system starts glitching. You weren't just chosen to survive. You were chosen to interrupt. You were designed to be the one who steps in and says, this cycle ends with me. And don't minimize that. That's not just a cute affirmation. That's cosmic warfare. Because cycles don't break clean. They snap and they fight back. And every time you chose healing over hiding, discipline over chaos, solitude over codependency, you triggered the very energies that have been keeping your bloodline bound for generations. You ever wonder why it's been so hard for you? Why the pain came in waves? Why the betrayal was so deep? Why the silence felt unbearable? Because you weren't fighting for one life, you were fighting for many. The pain wasn't proof that you're cursed. It was confirmation that you were the one strong enough to confront what others ran from. And yet, you still doubted it. Be honest. You questioned your strength. You wondered, why me? Why does it have to be this hard? You even looked around at people who seemed to be breezing through life while you were dragging the weight of your entire lineage on your back. And it made you bitter. It made you feel forgotten. But let's set the record straight. You weren't forgotten. You were forged. Forged in pressure. Forged in fire. Forged in betrayal. Forged in silence. And not just for show, but for purpose. The universe didn't abandon you. It equipped you in isolation. It let you walk through the shadows so you could learn how to shine without needing the sun. That depression you fought in secret, it became your discernment. That anxiety you battled in public, it became your awareness. That breakdown you barely survived, it became the foundation of your transformation. Think about the greats. Maya Angelou didn't rise without pain. Nelson Mandela didn't lead without prison. Oprah didn't conquer without being counted out. Their strength wasn't born in applause. It was born in isolation, in silence, in seasons that would have shattered the average soul. You see them shining now, but if you rewind their lives, you'll find moments where they were drowning in darkness, and still they rose. Just like you keep asking the wrong questions. Why is it so heavy? Why is it so hard? No, the real question is, how the hell are you still standing after all that? After everything they said, everything they did, after the emotional sabotage, the spiritual attacks, the betrayal from blood, the weight of unhealed ancestry sitting on your shoulders like bricks, and you're still here. Let that sink in. You're still here. You're not fragile. You're forged. You're not behind. You're being aligned. And you need to stop acting like you're just lucky to be alive. No, you're chosen. You're assigned. You're built for this. You didn't survive the fire. You became it. They don't fear what you say. They fear what you are, because no matter what they threw at you, it didn't stop the rise. In fact, it accelerated it. They've watched you be attacked and still elevate. They've seen you lose everything and still walk with authority. And now they're choking on their own confusion, wondering how you're still glowing when you should be gone. That's the power of being chosen. And here's the part they'll never admit. They saw it before you did. They knew something was different about you early on. You didn't fit. You didn't fold. You didn't follow. You questioned. You dreamed bigger. You reacted harder. You felt more. They didn't hate you. They feared the version of you that could no longer be manipulated. You ever wonder why certain people turned on you without reason? Why folks who once praised you suddenly flipped? It's because your evolution exposed their stagnation. Your healing revealed their wounds. Your self-love triggered their self-loathing. You became a mirror they couldn't stand to look at, so they tried to break the reflection instead. But a broken mirror doesn't change the truth. It just cuts deeper when you try to smash it. And still, you gave them grace. Still, you tried to explain your pain to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. Still, you tried to prove your worth to those who only saw your glow as a threat. Why? Because you forgot. You forgot that chosen doesn't mean comfortable. It means called. It means crucified before you're crowned. It means battle before breakthrough. You don't get to ask for ease and purpose in the same breath. And now that you're waking up to that truth, the power is shifting. You feel it. They feel it. The universe has always felt it. And from this point on, there's no more shrinking, no more doubting, no more apologizing for being the only one who didn't collapse. Let the world feel uncomfortable with your rise. Let the enemies choke on your peace. Let the watchers watch. Because what they tried to crush, it created something no lie can kill. You were born into burning houses and became both the extinguisher and the architect. You didn't just carry the weight, you became the foundation for everything new. And the ones who underestimated you, they're learning the hardest way possible that chosen doesn't mean lucky. It means unstoppable. Number 2, they played dirty and still lost. They dug your grave with their lies, and now they're the ones buried beneath the weight of their own stories. Let's talk about it. No sugarcoating, no soft words. They played dirty and still lost. They did everything they could to bring you down, not because you were wrong, not because you were harmful, not because you were broken, but because you were strong enough not to need them. And that kind of strength, it offends the weak, it shakes the insecure, it enrages those who only feel powerful when they can control the room. So what did they do? They lied, rewrote the truth, flipped every moment to fit their narrative. They staged scenes and played victim in a play they directed behind closed doors. They whispered just loud enough to be overheard. They smiled in your face and sharpened blades behind your back. And still, you never played their game. You didn't fight dirty. You didn't stoop. You didn't retaliate. And that's what destroyed them. Because chosen ones don't clap back with noise. We clap back with elevation. You stayed silent while they screamed. You stayed grounded while they spiraled. You chose growth while they chose gossip. And now, they're drowning in the very shadows they cast. The universe was watching the whole time. Every twisted word, every manipulation, every false narrative. Energy never forgets. And what they sent out? It's circling back, faster and harder than they ever imagined. They thought your silence was weakness. It wasn't. It was strategy. It was alignment. It was proof that the universe fights better battles than you ever could with your bare hands. Let them lie. The truth has never needed their permission to rise. And now look at them. Everything they spoke over your life is happening in theirs. Everything they hoped you'd suffer through is sitting in their lap now. They thought they were clever. They thought they were 10 steps ahead. But the truth is, they were playing checkers in a universe built on chess. The same traps they set for you, they tripped into them. The same walls they tried to build around you. They're now boxed in by their own intentions. You want to know how real it is. Some of them can't sleep, not because of guilt, but because their lies are unraveling in real time. They're afraid of the exposure. They're terrified that the people they lied to will finally see the truth. And they will. They are. The universe is meticulous. It doesn't just return energy. It reveals character, slowly, publicly, painfully. And here's where I turn to you, chosen one. How dare you keep doubting your power? How dare you still ask, did I overreact after everything they did? How dare you question yourself when the people who lied about you are now scrambling to keep their lives from falling apart? You didn't imagine it. You weren't too sensitive. You weren't crazy. You were targeted because they could feel something on you that you hadn't even stepped into yet, and that scared the hell out of them. Stop trying to rewrite what actually happened. Stop asking if you should have been more understanding. Understand this: if you had bowed, they would have kept you beneath their feet forever. Your strength forced them to play their hand. Your refusal to fold made them show their true face. And now they're paying for every choice they made. Not because you cursed them, but because you didn't collapse when you were supposed to. That's the revenge. Your glow, your rise, your peace, your silence. That's the punishment. That's the justice. You didn't lift a finger, but their world is crumbling. Because when you're chosen, the universe protects your name, even when your voice goes quiet. You don't need to prove anything. Your life is the proof. And don't get it twisted, they see it. Every post, every move, every moment you don't break, they break a little more, because they know deep down they played dirty and still lost. They went to war with someone who never even raised a weapon. You were too busy healing, evolving, rebuilding, but make no mistake, your evolution was their exposure. And now they're trapped. Trapped in the persona they performed for so long, trapped in the lies that once gained them sympathy, trapped in the illusion they used to control others. And every day, the truth tightens around them like a rope. And there's no one left to untie it, because the very people they turned against you, they're starting to notice. They're watching the cracks form. The timelines don't add up. The vibe is off. And your peace? It's screaming the truth they worked so hard to hide. So here's your reminder: they didn't win. They made a mess so big, now they can't clean it up. They called for storms, and now they're standing in floods of their own making. You kept walking, kept growing, kept choosing elevation over ego. And that's why you're winning in ways they'll never understand. They thought they could bury you with lies. What they didn't know, you were a seed. And now that you've grown, bloomed, and risen beyond their reach, don't you dare look back with doubt. Look back with clarity, with power, with gratitude, because their betrayal was the fuel that revealed your indestructible nature. They played dirty and still lost, and that's why they're haunted, not by what they did, but by the fact that it didn't work. Number 7. They tried to copy your glow, but couldn't survive your fire. They wanted your crown, but collapsed beneath the weight, because what you carry isn't decoration, it's a destiny forged in fire. Let's be real, they didn't admire you, they studied you, quietly, obsessively. behind fake praise and fake smiles. They were watching your every move like it was a blueprint, not because they loved you, but because they envied the fact that you were walking through storms and still managing to shine. They tried to copy your glow, but they couldn't survive your fire. You weren't just glowing, you were burning from the inside out. Everything about you was built in battle. That walk, learned through war, that confidence, earned in silence, that strength, forged in every breakdown that nobody clapped for. But they didn't see that part. They didn't want to see it. All they wanted was the result. So they grabbed the look, mimicked the language, borrowed the energy, and tried to step into shoes they had no business even touching. And now they're coughing on the smoke from a fire they weren't qualified to play with. They thought your light was surface, like style or charm or some aesthetic you could just recreate with enough effort. But what they didn't understand is that your glow was not performance. It was survival. You don't look like what you've been through, but make no mistake, you've been through hell. And that glow they envied, that was your reward for enduring what would have crushed them. Let me say it clear, energy can't be faked. It's not a filter. It's not a costume. You can't wear resilience like a jacket. You become it through scars, through silence, through suffering that no one saw. That's why they're choking now. That's why they're unraveling, because they called in a level of heat they were never built to endure. They dressed like royalty, but collapsed under the crown's weight. They thought your crown was pretty. They didn't see that it was made of broken pieces you refused to let kill you. They didn't see the nights you sat alone, crying through pain that had no name. They didn't witness the mental warfare you survived just to get out of bed some days. They didn't have to fight the same demons, but they thought they deserved the same shine. And now they're sitting in confusion, wondering why their glow-up feels hollow, why no matter how much they mimic, they can't manifest the peace you walk in, because the universe doesn't bless impersonators. It blesses alignment. And alignment can't be copied. It must be lived. Chosen one, let me speak directly to you. How dare you minimize yourself because they tried to clone you? How dare you shrink because they tried to wear your essence like fashion? You think their imitation means you're not unique. No, it's proof of your power. The fact that they couldn't be themselves in your presence says everything. You're not just influential, you're irreplaceable. And here's what they never realized. When you try to imitate someone chosen, you inherit consequences you were never built to bear. Your fire was meant for you, and only you. It knew your name before you knew your purpose. It knew what you could withstand, and that's why it transformed you. But them, they walked into your storm thinking it was style. They posted your essence like a costume, and now it's burning them from the inside. The downfall they're experiencing now, that's not karma, that's exposure. The mask is melting, the illusion is crumbling, because the same energy that anoints a chosen one will destroy a pretender. And you, the real one, you keep asking, why did they do that to me? Why try to copy me and tear me down at the same time? Because your light reminded them of everything they weren't willing to become. Your discipline exposed their laziness. Your authenticity revealed their performance. Your healing reminded them of every wound they refused to deal with. So they tried to dim your shine while wearing your reflection. But you cannot become what you won't walk through. They wanted to sit on the throne, but refused to crawl through the fire. So now they're falling apart. Not publicly maybe, but you can feel it. Their spirit is glitching. Their energy is tight. Nothing they touch flows. And it's not a curse. It's the price of imitation. Because you can't steal alignment. You can't Photoshop endurance. You can't skip the suffering and still collect the strength. Let this remind you who you are. You didn't just survive the fire. You became the flame. That glow they envied, you earned it. with pain, with patience, with power they'll never understand. And now that the mask is off and they're exposed by their own pretending, let them sit in it. Let them burn in the heat they weren't called to carry. They tried to copy your glow, but couldn't survive your fire. And that right there, that's why they'll never win. Number 4, you keep asking, why me? The universe keeps answering, because only you could. You keep crying, why me, while wearing a crown custom forged in fire, forgetting you were built for what would have broken them in seconds. Let's stop pretending. Let's stop playing small. You keep asking why it had to be you, why it was so hard, why you were chosen to walk through hell while others strolled through life with ease. You whisper it to yourself when no one's looking, drowning in frustration. Why me? Why does it always feel like I'm the one suffering the most? And every time you ask, the universe answers the same way, because only you could. But you keep missing it. You hear the answer, but you don't listen. You see the signs, but you ignore them. Because it doesn't feel fair, right? It doesn't feel like a gift. It doesn't feel like a calling. It feels like punishment, isolation, rejection, pain stacked on pain. You thought being chosen would come with applause, but instead it came with attacks. You thought being powerful meant being praised, but it meant being targeted. And you know what? That's exactly how it's supposed to be. Let me say it straight. Stop asking why you're alone. You weren't abandoned. You were separated. And that separation, it was surgical, precise, strategic. You weren't pulled away from people because something was wrong with you. You were pulled away because the people around you couldn't breathe in the same atmosphere as your calling. They weren't strong enough, pure enough, prepared enough. So the universe cleared the room before your breakthrough hit. And still, you doubt. You keep treating your assignment like a curse, like it's too much, like maybe you were wrong about your power, maybe you made it all up, maybe the pain is proof that you're not chosen after all. No, the pain is the proof that you are. This isn't for the weak. Your tears are not signs of weakness, they're signs of purification. Your isolation isn't exile, it's elevation. You were being refined while others were being distracted. While they were partying, you were praying. While they were faking, you were breaking. And while they were avoiding themselves, you were being confronted by everything they run from. That's why it hurts. That's why it's heavy. Because this isn't just your journey. It's your lineage's liberation, your healing wounds you didn't create, your breaking habits you didn't start, your fighting demons passed down like heirlooms. And the universe chose you to end it, not because you're perfect, not because you had it all together, but because you had the soul that would survive the storm. Still want to ask, why me? Let's flip the question. Why not you? Who else could have handled the betrayal, the abandonment, the spiritual warfare, the self-doubt, the emotional sabotage, and still found a way to keep going? Who else could have lost everything, been counted out, dragged through the mud, and still kept their heart intact? Who else would have gone through all of that and still refused to become bitter? Who else would have used their pain to build, not destroy? Only you. That's why you were called, because while others complain in discomfort, you transform in fire. You don't collapse, you evolve. And don't act brand new. You've seen it, time and time again. You've hit rock bottom and found your power in the rubble. You've lost people you thought you couldn't live without, and now you're breathing deeper than ever. You've been silenced, laughed at, underestimated. And now they're all watching your quiet rise with fear in their chest. And still, you ask, why me? Because chosen doesn't mean celebrated. It means separated. It means you were pulled out so you could be poured into. It means you had to walk alone so you'd stop depending on validation. It means the universe had to strip everything away so you could remember what you're really made of. And now that you're rising, now that you're walking in the very strength you thought you lost, don't you dare shrink. Don't you dare go back to begging for company in rooms you were never meant to sit in. Don't you dare apologize for walking a path that others were too afraid to even look at. Don't you dare ask again, why me? When the answer has been echoing around you the entire time. Because only you could survive it. Only you could feel everything and still move forward. Only you could break the chain, carry the weight, walk through hell, and still come out with your light intact. So stop whining, stop hiding, stop asking for ease when you were designed for impact. This was never supposed to be light. It was supposed to be life-changing, not just for you, but for everyone connected to your obedience. You don't just carry your own future, you carry legacies, lineages, generations watching from behind the veil, whispering, don't give up. You're the one we prayed for. So now what? You stand up, you stop questioning the path, you stop asking for proof that you're chosen, and start walking like you remember who you are. You are not average, you are not replaceable, you are not crazy. You are called, and it's time to stop running from it. You keep asking, why me? But deep down, you already know, because only you could. Number 5, this isn't burnout, it's breakthrough. They thought you were falling apart, but the truth is, you were just falling out of alignment with everything that was never meant to come with you. Let's get something straight. You're not breaking down, you're breaking through. Those waves of exhaustion, the random anxiety, the heaviness in your chest, the sleepless nights, the weird body aches that no doctor can explain. It's not dysfunction, it's transition. What you're feeling isn't failure, it's frequency shift. And while it feels like you're dying, what's really happening is this. The old you is being peeled off so the real you can step forward. This isn't burnout, it's breakthrough. Stop calling it something it's not. You are not off, you're being upgraded, and upgrades require system shutdowns. Your energy is recalibrating for the next dimension, and that means everything not aligned with that elevation has to be stripped away. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, even biologically. Think about it. You've been feeling disconnected, like you're floating outside your body one day and drowning in your own skin the next. You've had days where you felt untouchable, followed by days where just existing felt like a war. Your appetite's changed, your sleep has flipped. The same habits that once numbed you now feel toxic. The same people you used to laugh with now feel like strangers. The music hits different. The silence hits deeper. You're not going crazy, you're coming into clarity. Evolution feels like chaos to the untrained mind, but you're not unraveling, you're reprogramming. Remember that. The same way a snake sheds its skin, the process doesn't look clean. It's uncomfortable, it's itchy, it's isolating, but what comes after is renewal, strength, sensitivity. You're being made new, and that hurts. Growth doesn't ask for your comfort. It demands your obedience. And the reason it feels like everything's caving in on you right now is because the room around you can no longer hold the magnitude of what's expanding within you. Let me ask you something. Why do you always think something's wrong when you feel uncomfortable? Why is your first instinct to assume you're off course, that you're weak, that you're falling apart? Have you forgotten who you are? Have you forgotten what you've already survived? Do you think the universe brought you this far just to leave you trembling in confusion? No, you're not collapsing, you're transforming. And the reason it feels so overwhelming is because you've outgrown the entire energetic identity you once lived in. You're not just healing, you're becoming unrecognizable to everything that knew you before you understood your power. That's why it feels like you're losing yourself, because you are. You're losing the version of you that settled, that doubted, that played small, that said yes to things that insulted your soul. And that's a death worth grieving and celebrating. Don't confuse discomfort with disconnection. Don't confuse emotional exhaustion with spiritual failure. The weight you're feeling isn't the end, it's the womb. You're being rebirthed into a level of alignment that your old reality was never designed to support. That's why nothing makes sense right now. That's why your peace is louder than the noise. That's why everything is falling apart, because it has to make space for what's coming. The next version of you cannot be built on the fragments of who they tried to destroy. They don't even recognize you anymore, and that's the point. You've shifted so much that their old manipulations don't land. Their old strategies don't shake you. Their access is denied by default because the frequency has changed. And while they gossip about your glow up, they'll never understand the pain it cost you to evolve this quietly. That's why they'll keep saying you've changed. And you should smile and say, thank you. Because staying the same would have killed you. Chosen one, stop running to the mirror looking for signs of collapse. Stop panicking every time the wave hits. Start seeing it for what it is, the sacred process of becoming. What's happening inside you right now is sacred. It's divine. And yes, it's messy. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it feels like everything is shifting faster than you can keep up. But guess what? That's exactly how breakthrough feels. Not soft, not easy, but necessary. You keep saying you want to evolve, but then complain when your comfort gets stripped. You say you want alignment, then panic when misalignment gets exposed. You can't have both. If you want the next level, you have to release the identity tied to the last one, and that means surrendering to the fire, not just enduring it. This isn't burnout, this isn't weakness, this is your spirit expanding into its full form. You're not here to survive the shift, you're here to lead through it. You are the blueprint, you are the example, you are the evidence that chaos births clarity and pain births purpose. So breathe, cry if you need to, rest but don't retreat. Because what you're stepping into now, it's bigger than your exhaustion, it's louder than your fear, and it's more aligned than anything you've ever known. You're not breaking, you're finally breaking through. Number 6, you were the brick that refused to crack, so they called you the problem. You didn't fight back with fists, you stood in truth, and that alone made them bleed with insecurity. Let's go there. Let's rip the mask off it all. You were the brick that refused to crack, so they called you the problem. That's how this game works. When they can't control you, they try to discredit you. When they can't shake your foundation, they start shaking the room and blame the tremors on you. Not because you were wrong, but because you were unshakable. And to small minds, stability is threatening, certainty is dangerous, truth is lethal. You didn't go along with the manipulation. You questioned it. You didn't stay silent when the energy was off. You spoke up. You didn't sit quietly while lies were passed around like candy. You stayed rooted, unmoved, unapologetic. And that's what triggered them. Because people who benefit from your silence will always see your voice as violence. So what did they do? They twisted your strength into aggression, labeled your boundaries as bitterness, called your detachment cold. Your awareness made them uncomfortable, so they renamed it paranoia. Your peace made them feel irrelevant, so they called it pride. They needed you broken because your wholeness made their dysfunction too obvious to hide. And you still ask, why did they turn on me? Because you didn't fold. because you didn't fake it, because you walked in rooms with truth in your spirit and refused to play the part they assigned to you. You were the mirror, and they hated what they saw, so they tried to shatter the reflection. It's not that you were the issue, it's that you exposed the issue. You ever notice how people don't really hate you for what you do? They hate you for what you reveal. When your existence calls out their hypocrisy, their ego can't handle it. So instead of healing, they project. Instead of growing, they smear. They couldn't gaslight you into thinking you were wrong, so they convinced others you were unstable. They couldn't manipulate you into staying quiet, so they painted you as difficult. But let's tell the truth. If you had bowed down, played dumb, stayed quiet, kept smiling, kept giving, kept shrinking, they would have loved you. They don't hate you because you were the villain. They hate you because you were the interruption. You didn't let them lie unchecked. You didn't let the dysfunction go unspoken. You didn't let the smear campaign silence your knowing. And that made you dangerous, because nothing threatens manipulators more than a person who sees clearly and refuses to perform. So what do they do to someone like you? They isolate you, they villainize you, they gossip, they rewrite the script, they turn mutuals against you, they paint you with all their own projections. Why? Because if they can convince the world you're the problem, they don't have to face the fact that they were never in control to begin with. And here's the wild part. You almost believed it. Be honest. You almost let their lies into your bloodstream. You almost convinced yourself that maybe you were too much. Maybe you did deserve the silence. Maybe you were overreacting. They made you question your clarity. They made you shrink your power, but not anymore. Because now you see the pattern, now you feel the shift, now you're waking up to the truth. They couldn't break you, so they tried to bury you in a narrative. But chosen one, here's what they forgot. You are not a character in their story, you are the author of your own. And no lie they spread can outlast the truth you live. They played a dirty game, and now their version of the story is collapsing. People are waking up. The energy is shifting. What used to stick now slides off. What used to sting now strengthens you. They called you the problem, but now they're sitting in the silence of a life that can't function without someone to blame. And you're finally starting to understand that you were never too loud, too bold, too much. You were just too real for their illusion to survive. You didn't crack, you didn't bend, you didn't vanish when they hoped you would. You rose with scars, with clarity, with power they still can't name. And now they're haunted, not by what you did, but by the fact that they couldn't destroy you when they had the chance. You were the mirror, you were the brick, you were the truth in a room full of masks. And no matter how hard they tried to twist the story, deep down, they know you were never the problem. You were the reckoning. Number 7. You didn't just break the curse, you burned the blueprint. You weren't sent to survive, you were sent to disrupt. And now everything they built on dysfunction is turning to ash because you didn't just break the curse, you burned the entire blueprint. Let's be very clear about something. This wasn't just about you healing your trauma. This wasn't just about getting your mind right, cutting off toxic people, or learning to love yourself. No, this was a generational demolition, a divine assignment to end what everyone before you either ran from, normalized, or passed down in silence. You didn't just stop a cycle, you destroyed the entire system it operated on. And that's why it felt unbearable. That's why the weight on your back didn't feel fair. It wasn't, but it was necessary. You were carrying decisions made long before your birth. You were born into rooms filled with suppressed pain, unspoken resentment, generational addictions, and spiritual stagnation. And unlike those before you, you didn't numb it. You confronted it. You didn't pass it down. You set it on fire. You broke the curse? No, you burned the blueprint. You torched the map they followed blindly. You ripped the script they handed you since birth, the one written in limitation, silence, and self-betrayal. You burned the idea that suffering is normal, that love must come with pain, that peace is something you earn instead of something you embody. And because of that, your children, whether biological, spiritual, or ancestral, will never know the prison you had to claw your way out of. You want to know why the attacks were so brutal, why the isolation was so deep, why the healing never felt like a peaceful spa day, but a battlefield you crawled through alone. Because you were ending what generations accepted. You were ripping up roots buried for decades, uprooting mindsets that hid behind culture, destroying patterns that were never questioned because they were just the way things are. You were the glitch in the bloodline, the sacred interruption, and every demon that fed on your family for generations knew it the moment you started saying no. So they came for you. Through people, through anxiety, through depression, through sudden chaos and spiritual fatigue. And still, you didn't quit. You shook, you cried, you begged the universe for a lighter load, but you didn't bow. You kept going when it made no sense to. And now that the dust is settling, you need to hear this. What you did shifted your entire bloodline. Your healing isn't personal, it's prophetic. Every time you chose truth over silence, love over trauma bonding, boundaries over appeasement, you rewired the DNA of everyone connected to you, even the ones who hated you for it, even the ones who never thanked you. Your growth is echoing in dimensions they'll never understand, but they'll feel it. The ones before you may never say it, but their souls know you did what they couldn't. You carried the pain and didn't collapse. You looked the dysfunction in the face and said, no more. You refused to bleed on the next generation. And because of that, cycles that lasted centuries end with your name on them. And don't you dare downplay it. Don't you dare call this just healing. This was a revolution, a spiritual rebellion. You didn't walk away from the pain. You walked through it and came out with power in your hands. They thought you were soft, emotional, delusional. But what they didn't realize is that you weren't breaking. You were blazing. And now they're choking on the smoke of a legacy you refuse to pass down. And yes, they'll act like they don't see it. They'll pretend they didn't notice your shift. They'll downplay your growth and mock your distance. Let them, because deep down, they know that your evolution exposed their stagnation. Your peace made their chaos too loud to ignore. And your refusal to play along forced them to face the system that once gave them comfort, and now leaves them empty. You didn't just change, you challenged every single structure that once owned your bloodline. You rewrote the rules. You were never here to play by the book. You were born to burn it. So when you ask, why did it have to be me? Remember, because no one else had the fire. No one else had the voice, the spine, the soul it takes to carry that kind of weight and not pass it on. You were never chosen to survive quietly. You were chosen to disrupt loudly. And now that you've done the impossible, now that you've leveled up past everything meant to bury you, stand tall, stand proud, stand in the ashes of every lie, every label, every curse, every limitation that dared to attach itself to your name. Because now you're the new blueprint, and the ones who follow after you, they'll rise, not because it was easy, but because you made it possible. And now that the truth has been laid bare, let this sink in. You didn't just survive, you reshaped the future. The assignment over your life was never for the weak, and you've done what generations couldn't. Walk with that. Own that. Never shrink again. If this message struck your spirit, like this video, subscribe for more, and drop the number 77 in the comments to confirm you're walking boldly in your calling. Share this with another chosen one who's still doubting their power, because your breakthrough might be the blueprint they've been praying for.